2019 marks the halcyon year before the onslaught of next-gen news, reveals, and revelations. Even with that on the horizon, this year isn't short on games. In fact, we can safely declare that we are blessed with a ton of video game experiences, ranging from roguelike card combat, hardcore ninja exploits, loot and shooting galore, and even policing a 90s-style internet. This year, for Kakuchopurei's Best Game Awards, we're going to pick 30 of the best titles, the ones that stood out to us in a year filled with already stellar gameplay experiences. This list isn't ranked in any order, it's just 30 of the best games of 2019. We took a while to decide and figure out the best of the best. We believe we made the right choice, so here we go. Number 1. Sekiro. There is a point as to why your fights in Sekiro should be treated with respect, whether it's from legendary bosses like Genichiro Ashina or even against the mid-tier oddities you meet along your quest. It's because Sekiro wants to make you a better gamer. Like any NES game, it applies tough love so you can appreciate its design, its level structure, and its atmosphere in the long run. Unflinchingly brutal, uncompromised vision, yet rewarding in its 30 hours of gameplay. That is From Software's latest in a nutshell. Number 2. What the Golf. For a game with golf in the title, there is surprisingly little of the sport in What the Golf, and that is what makes this indie game from Triban quite a remarkable 2019 treasure. It takes one gameplay mechanic that emulates other golf titles, and then surprises you with absurd and humorous puzzles involving the act of pulling, aiming, and releasing. To reveal more than the first hour of the game would do this indie darling injustice. So believe us when we say that What the Golf is truly for people who hate golf, but love quirky addictive puzzle games. Number 3. The Outer Worlds. In a world where Bethesda figuratively screwed the irradiated pooch with the Fallout brand, The Outer Worlds is a much needed return to RPG form, especially since the title is helmed by Fallout, Black Isle, and Obsidian Entertainment veterans Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky. Even on its own merits, The Outer Worlds is a sublime role-playing experience. It features a rich world, a huge cast of eclectic personalities, a fun combat system that makes use of your speech and intelligence checks, and a humorous if bleak outlook in a future that's part Art Deco and part Lost Futurama movie. It may only be 10 or 20 hours shorter than the previous works, but that doesn't make this RPG all the less stellar. Number 4. Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds is not your usual adventure game. You fly around in a spaceship, exploring the solar system you're in until a supernova happens and wipes you out of existence. And then you start the day over like a sci-fi Groundhog Day movie with space banjos playing in the background. All you do in the game is explore, create bite-sized expeditions, and eventually solve the mystery behind the game's world. You don't even do much combat or confrontations. You're just pacing yourself and plotting routes, sorting out the conundrum you're in. And yet, we can't help but be compelled by the game's captivating narrative and charming writing. Maybe it's the open-ended nature of the game, and the questions it poses. Maybe it's a space country soundtrack. But trust us, when we say Outer Wilds is an experience unlike any other. Number 5. Astral Chain. This year has been blessed with a ton of action games. Astral Chain caps off the year with its blend of adventuring and hyper-stylized fighting using two characters at once. Developer Platinum Games took a lot of concepts and design from its 2017 hit Nier Automata and made an entirely new sci-fi setting out of it, one that is heavily influenced from 80s and 90s police anime. Speaking of the genre, the game's JoJo Bizarre Adventure stand mechanic, where you control 5 different types of Legion Chimeras for both solving, detective work, and crime fighting, elevates this action game above its contemporaries. It takes some time getting used to, but once you master the basics, you'll feel rewarded just getting a high ranking from using what you've learned and applying it against even the toughest of obstacles. It's definitely one of Nintendo's best new IPs since Splatoon. Number 6. Ace Combat 7: Skies Unknown. Bandai Namco's major AAA contribution that isn't anime brings back a genre long lost in time: the arcade flight simulator. And amidst the battle royale and shooter-laden competitive landscape, it completely sticks the landing. Ace Combat 7's plot may be divisive for fans and people who want sense out of the politics-laced fiction. However, the core air combat, its game-changing weather system, its competitive multiplayer, and its stellar controls are second to none. While we do wish your companion AIs could fare better in the long run, that isn't enough of a turbulence to mess up this pleasant flight into the unknown. Number 7. Samurai Showdown. SNK's latest is 2D fighting in its most honest form. What it lacks in esports tailoring and flair, it makes it up with brutality. Samsho teaches new fighting game players to make better judgments and take necessary risks when fighting. Every move you unleash can be punished painfully, which means you have to play a careful game of cat and mouse to outwit your opponent with the right plays, or by capitalizing on their mistakes. The same can be said for all other fighting games, but none do it in a more impactful and visceral way. Samsho proves that all the gimmicks and combos in the world cannot replace true 2D fighting, as evident in its period piece aesthetics, its controls, and its methodical combat. Number 8. Luigi's Mansion 3. It's not so much of the brain-teasing challenges of Luigi's Mansion 3 that will hold and captivate your attention, though some of the tougher layouts and boss fights can make you feel dumb until you crack it. But it's the sense of discovery and exploration in the haunted hotel that reels you in. The quote-unquote mansion is a place full of charisma and life, ironically for a place that is filled with a lot of the dearly departed in spectral form. Despite some odd quirks or two, busting in Luigi's latest solo outing will indeed make you feel good. Number 9. Resident Evil 2. What started out as a first-person return to form for AAA horror in the form of Resident Evil 7 soon became a tale of redemption for Capcom. One that helps create a new narrative for the company that once bungled its many IPs, save for Street Fighter. Sort of. Their follow-up to Part 7 is a long-awaited remake of one of the best sequels in the survival horror series. The Resident Evil 2 remake not only updates the game tremendously to fit 2019 sensibilities in design and controls, but also makes survival horror action a lot more intense. This is thanks to a combination of its newly formed aesthetics, its revamped enemies and level layout, and making its star, Mr. X, appear earlier than in the original PS1 game. You'll be hard-pressed not to find another horror game as replayable and as thrilling as Capcom's diligent remake. Number 10. Fire Emblem: Three Houses. One can argue that the legendary strategy role-playing series has lost its hardcore luster once players were given the choice to turn off permadeath. Yet at the same time, it also makes the latest 40-hour epic tale of church and state-based fantasy realm warfare all the more enticing for anyone remotely interested. Fire Emblem Three Houses features an eclectic cast of students and teachers to bond with, a military school system that lets you build up your army of students in meaningful ways, and the classic refined, turn-based strategy gameplay that entertains and challenges. Over time, you'll be deeply invested, both practically and emotionally, in the house you support, be it the Golden Deers, the Blue Lions, or the Black Eagles. Because of the way it tugs your JRPG heartstrings, it's no surprise as to why this latest Fire Emblem is the head of the class. Number 11. Devotion. As time goes by, horror games lose more and more of their appeal because of their focus on polish and survival horror action tropes. While this isn't inherently bad, it does mean that some indie titles rely on cheap scare tactics and limited scope. Our indie horror pick, Devotion, basically eschews jump scares and instead relies a lot more on atmosphere, dread, and the real-life issue in Taiwan involving religious fanatics and how they prey upon the desperate. Every step you take gets you closer to understanding the tragic and downward spiraling lives of its characters. To reveal further would do this title a disservice. If you can find any means of procuring Devotion, since it's a bit tough to get it through legal means, you'll be glad to experience one of this year's best indie horror games. Number 12. Total War: Three Kingdoms. Total War: Three Kingdoms is 2019's Grand Dynasty level strategy game, bar none. With multiple winning conditions, an epic storyline that recaps the Chinese tale of warfare and romancing, and a remarkable presentation style, developer Creative Assembly prove once again that they are the masters of their craft. Do not be discouraged if you are unaccustomed to the story of Romance of the Three Kingdoms. This title will not only show you the ropes, but will make you an avid fan of the history of China's unification after hours of dedication. This is clearly one for the history books. Number 13. Katana Zero. Katana Zero's 2D levels are tightly designed with multiple ways to slash your way through hordes of gangsters, bodyguards, and even SWAT teams. As such, you'll face many deaths replaying them to get to point B. But it's not the game's fault, it's mostly your own because you did not know when to adapt and react. While the game's story isn't anything to write home about, its tight gameplay and rock-solid controls are backed up by a phenomenal soundtrack that has an 80s synth and bass flair to it. With 11 levels filled with tricky action puzzle brain teasers, this 2D indie game is as perfectly keen as the blade wielded by its anti-hero. Number 14. Devil May Cry 5. When it comes to hyper-action, stylistic combat in video games, the Devil May Cry series started it all. One can argue it lost its way somewhere around the mid-2000s or so, but Part 5 represents a true return to style for the series after that profanity-fueled detour in 2013. Thanks to the RE engine, Devil May Cry 5 isn't just awesome in terms of its combat. The game looks fantastic and runs smoothly across all platforms. The fast-paced combat, coupled with 3 distinctive playable characters with different fighting styles, justifies the game's stylistic and over-the-top tone. What also makes the 5th Devil May Cry a pinnacle action game is its accessibility. It's not only inviting for newcomers, but also deep and hardcore enough to satisfy veterans. The combo system, the optional higher difficulties, and the Bloody Palace update will always give you motivation to switch things up and pursue that triple S ranking. The second bout of Capcom's redemption arc is no hyperbole. The MC is truly back. Number 15. Disco Elysium. If you're a fan of role-playing, then Disco Elysium is perfect for you. The game is heavy on text like a visual novel, but comes with difficulty checks, buffs, and other RPG elements. Whereas other titles fail in their writing, Disco Elysium sets the dance floor ablaze with its stellar narrative. Conversations and debates in the game are so well written that you'd swear you were reading a New York Times bestseller. Disco Elysium's world building is also impressive, with an entirely fictional country with its own centuries worth of rich history left for you to discover on your own. The game masterfully eases you into everything it offers, while also offering an underlying mystery to solve. Or not. It's up to you if you want to be a good cop and impress your partner, or irresponsibly drink and drug yourself to damnation while being coerced by your malevolent tie. It's not every day you come across an RPG where you spend half the time debating with yourself on whether you should submit to being a racist or a fascist. Number 16. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled strives to be more than just a runner-up in the kart games race. For one, it takes the infamous difficulty of the Crash Bandicoot titles and tweaks it for 2019's sensibilities. You still have all the pickups and crazy tracks to learn, coupled with the boosting and drifting mechanics that echo back to arcade-style racing games. With a lovely coat of paint and a diverse selection of races, karts, tracks, and modes, it's really hard not to give recognition towards Beanox's attention to detail and effort. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel successfully revives the local co-op competitive and party game genre. Not only that, it's available for all major platforms, unlike a certain other Nintendo-branded kart game. Number 17. River City Girls. It's definitely been years since most people last played a well-made 2D beat-em-up. River City Girls successfully brings back the joy of playing those games while also providing a lot of its own charm and old-school nods. Just like its Kunio-kun prequels, combat starts out really simple with basic combos. As you keep leveling up your characters and collecting money for moves and stat buffs, you'll soon be performing gnarly dropkicks, awesome uppercuts, powerful dabs, and stone-cold stunners. River City Girls also excels when you find someone to play it with. The co-op mode makes the game twice as fun and chaotic. Combined together with its colorful pixel graphics and memorable soundtrack, this girl power trip is one of 2019's standout brawlers. Number 18. Cadence of Hyrule. Most games want you to fight and run all the way to the end of the level. Cadence of Hyrule demands that you dance your way to victory. Every move and every attack must follow the game's beat. While it's pretty much Crypt of the Necrodancer with a Legend of Zelda reskin, that's far from a bad thing. The soundtrack is full of remixes of popular Zelda OSTs, and its maps and enemies are also based on the Zelda series, challenge and all. While not as randomized as its predecessor, Cadence of Hyrule amplifies the formula by making its maps bigger, more packed, and more robust, filled with secrets and treasures for you to jump, jive, and wail towards to. This is one Nintendo exclusive house party you'll want to jam to. Number 19. Star Wars Jedi: Fallen Order. After the release of Star Wars Battlefront 2, many people lost confidence in EA ever publishing another decent Star Wars game. Respawn's first licensed effort is the first in many years to buck that trend. Star Wars Jedi: Fallen Order is not just a good Star Wars game, it's a great game all around. It takes bits from other notable titles and genres and then turns it into a well-paced, exploration-heavy action-adventure experience. It may not be an entirely original game, but it adopts each different element well into one cohesive package. And that's not even adding the many fan service moments that are implemented naturally, a contrast to the series' recent 9th Mothership title. Every piece of lore is weaved organically for avid fans to find and check out. Speaking as a group who is disillusioned by past EA efforts, Respawn's latest truly marks the new hope for many. Number 20. Control. To call Control a brain-bending rollercoaster ride would be selling Remedy's latest incredibly short. Its presentation is purposefully authoritative yet otherworldly, with many stunning effects and physics magic knee-deep in the Bureau's many sections. Seeing the story unfold through heroine Jessie Fadden as the newly appointed director of the Federal Bureau of Control is an engrossing journey, especially when powered by great voice work from his actors. We're also glad that Control does not skimp on the fun factor. If you've been itching for a game where you shoot people and throw forklifts at them with your mind, this is it. Come for the awesome telekinetic gameplay, stay for its incredibly laid out conspiracy story. Number 21. Greedfall. BioWare has dropped the Western RPG ball as of late, so it's up to other developers to pick it up and throw it back at its fans. Enter Greedfall from developers Spiders. Greedfall has everything you wanted in a Western RPG title. Real-time combat, branching quests, and companions you can be intimate with. The island of Tir Fradi is full of dangers that provides both challenge and intrigue. The studio's inexperience in making large-scale RPGs can sometimes be seen. However, the entirety of Greedfall is still a very satisfying package that's made out of love for CRPGs. There's enough adventure and mystery here to last you dozens of hours, rivaling even some entries from BioWare's stable of games in terms of scope, depth, and heart. Number 22. Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 is a lot of fun, akin to a roller coaster ride. You can absolutely enjoy the game based on its premise of Final Fantasy meets Disney, even if you don't get all of its lore. What truly makes it memorable is how players can explore various Disney worlds in a game-like state. The sights and sounds for each world needs to be played and experienced, be it the long-awaited Pixar levels to the realistic Pirates of the Caribbean stages. You can thank current-gen visual upgrades and Yoko Shimomura's iconic score for that. Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't just eye candy. You'll also have lots of fun fighting enemies and dueling against challenging bosses using your patented Keyblades and Disney-themed spells. Like we stressed earlier, it's quite a rollercoaster ride that will keep you on your toes. For better or worse, Square Enix kept the PS2 style of narrative exposition along with some arcade gameplay mechanics for its fanbase, which is sure to turn off many. But if you can get past that, this is one journey worth taking. Number 23. Slay the Spire. It's really hard to find a collectible card game these days that just appears to be anything more than a reskin of Hearthstone. Slay the Spire brings something fresh to the table with its hybrid cards and roguelike gameplay. Instead of dishing out cards to battle on the deck, your cards are translated into turn-based RPG moves. There is still a lot of strategy and complexity involved, but it's displayed in a more active manner. Taking a page from roguelikes, the titular Spire rewards you with treasure if you can get past its many randomized mobs and level placements. The variety offered here, accentuated with its 3 playable classes, is truly staggering, and will keep you hooked with deck building, pathfinding, and hard choices between permanent power-ups to keep or discard. Number 24. Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. In the absence of a strong Castlevania title in the past years, a lot of new Metroidvania games have surfaced. None of them truly infuse the spirit of Castlevania like Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. This may have a lot to do with the involvement of former Castlevania lead producer Koji Igarashi. Everything you expected in the well-designed Castlevania game, you'll find it in Bloodstained. Taking the best from Igarashi's past Castlevanias like Symphony of the Night to Aria of Sorrow, while also adding in meaningful updates like alchemy and item growing, it's the Metroidvania formula perfected. It also helps that the game looks enchanting with its cel-shaded look and orally pleasing with Michiru Yamane's music work. While not as grand as the past hits, it still hits the right notes. Number 25. Indivisible. There's a lot to love about Indivisible. Made by the same folks who brought us Skullgirls, the first thing you'll notice is that it's one heck of a looker. The cute and oftentimes sexy 2D art style is brought to life by wonderfully animated movements. The combat in this JRPG is the developer's take on turn-based action inputs a la Valkyrie Profile. You'll rack up tons of companions to join your party, and they each have their own movesets to rake up combos and buffs with. You'll have a blast experimenting with the various party compositions. While its narrative has its moments, it isn't the game's highlight. The spotlight is on its characters and location, ranging from the brash but well-meaning Archna to the many areas influenced by Southeast Asian culture. If you're a JRPG fan but don't want to break the bank, you may want to add Indivisible to your collection. Number 26. Call of Duty: Modern Warfare. For all of Activision's method of annualizing and exploiting the Call of Duty series to the ground, the company at least lets developer Infinity Ward to release their vision of a soft reboot. Call of Duty: Modern Warfare keeps its core gameplay intact without any needless fluff, while delivering the best in single-player campaign storytelling and multiplayer engagements. the 2019 version of Call of Duty Modern Warfare keeps its core gameplay intact without any needless fluff, while delivering the best in single-player campaign storytelling and multiplayer engagements. The shooting and combat is simple yet substantial, thanks to its many online modes that are sure to be mainstays for months to come. Unlike its prequels and past updates, this game relies less on running and gunning and more on positioning and tactics, yet still retains its action beats and controls. Modern Warfare 2019 also comes with a gripping single-player campaign that is short but sweet. Combined with the aforementioned multiplayer, we do hope that its publisher does not mess up its future on the surefire thing. Number 27. Borderlands 3. No amount of controversies on Gearbox's side, numerous as they are, can hold Borderlands 3 back. The developers took into heart all the complaints of previous Borderlands titles and improved upon the loot and shooter formula tenfold. The 4 different Vault Hunters are a joy to play as, the challenges they have to overcome are frenetic as they come, and the shooting mechanics just feel sublime. And that isn't counting the number of unique guns and equipment you'll get for your battle spoils, which is ever growing, given its seasonal update plans. Narrative foibles aside, this is a loot and shooter to end all live services pretenders to the throne. The king truly has returned. Number 28. Apex Legends. Apex Legends is one of 2019's surprise multiplayer games. It takes the Battle Royale genre from PUBG and gives it the Respawn Entertainment touch, taking elements from its Titanfall games and incorporating it into a 3-person co-op mechanic. Suffice to say, they've outdone themselves in delivering an enthralling, team-based competitive shooter with smart ideas that addresses many of the newborn genre's weaknesses and quirks. You could say this game has already set itself up to be an actual alpha for all other Battle Royale games to bow down to. Number 29. Untitled Goose Game. What started out as a joke from developers House ended up becoming an indie darling. And it's easy to see why. It's a simple tale of a goose that goes against the laws of nature and attempts to annoy the heck out of the game's villagers. From the title's pastel tones and English village setting to the squiggly shout lines from the goose's honk, the game has a zen-like quality that surprisingly complements with the escalating pranks you end up pulling off. While it doesn't adhere to gaming traditions like some entries on our list, it isn't going to cost you a bomb to make you part of its grand plan. Untitled Goose Game is a cheap thrill that charmed and impressed many of us in its short but sweet playtime. Number 30. The Auto Battler genre. Teamfight Tactics, Auto Chess, Dota Underlords. You may have played either one of these, and they have their own variations, tile sets, and rules. However, they all go under the same class of competitive games that dominated mobile titles and PCs earlier in 2019. Arguably, it's still taking the esports scene by surprise. The game's simple premise and objective is a mixture of battle royale elimination, turn-based unit placement, resource management, and auto-battling as the genre title suggests. It's hard to imagine that these multiple concepts work well in tandem to create a fun and engrossing competitive experience. Yet the proof is in the pudding, or in this case, on your desktop and mobile devices. It's tough to give our last spot to one and not include the other two Auto Battler games, as these titles came out within the same year and hit the same market while occupying the space of its carved genre. So as a first, we are giving this last Best of 2019 spot to the genre itself, because it has made history this year as a trendsetter, a dominant gaming force, and personally, an addictive time waster that caters to all types of gamers. And that is it for Kakuchopurei's Best 30 Games of 2019. Thank you for viewing our special end-of-year feature, where we celebrate the best of gaming this year. If you want to show your support for awesome video game content made in Southeast Asia and in English, do like and subscribe to our social media pages and website links below. We totally appreciate it. We also have a few special 2019 videos coming soon this January, so keep an eye out for that. To cap off this special 2019 video, here are some of our honorable mentions that didn't make it to the top 30 after much deliberation. And with that, have a very happy New Year.
For this war or any more to come, a sacrifice is nothing if it means I'll show you the world that we can rebuild. Tell me, do you know how softly the breezes could sing if we let them come through with a might on their own? Just how many